Hello and welcome back to the news from Kazakhstan. I'm Marina Kim. Here are the top stories. President Nazarbayev speaks against the reinforcement of his leadership by the constitution and asks for an elixir of youth. The Competition Protection Agency accuses bakeries of the country of price collusion. Businessmen reply with complaints about the lack of state subsidies. Public activists expressed their concern that the upcoming Asian Winter Games are not likely to improve the country's image. On Wednesday, President of Kazakhstan Nursultan Nazarbayev asked not to aggravate his leadership and declined the proposal of Senator Anatoly Bashmakov to ratify the current status in the constitution of the country.
During his speech, Nazarbayev defined the direction of the organization's future work for decades ahead. Apparently, it is the development of patriotism which should at the same time not hamper with the improvement of friendship between different nations living in the country. Later in the meeting, Senator Bashmakov proposed to amend the constitution with an article on the leader of the nation, while the president of the Korean Association, Raman Kin, called to extend the current presidential term until 2020. Nazarbayev agreed, although with one condition. I agree, but only if you can offer me an elixir of youth and energy. Perhaps Koreans have some medicine like that.
The funeral of the head of the resuscitation department that treated former health minister Zhexlik Daskaliev took place on Wednesday in Almaty. The colleagues of the later doctor claimed the sudden death is in no way related to the interrogations she was recently subjected to by the financial police officers.
She died suddenly and unexpectedly. It seems just yesterday Aygul Zhatim-Karinova headed the intensive therapy unit which treated the former health minister Daskaliev. Now her colleagues talk about the causes of her death, a big tumor of the liver. Friends and family were shocked about the sudden passing of the doctor. After all, the top professional with 25 years of experience behind her never noticed any symptoms of serious illness. She followed in the footsteps of her father and dedicated her life to medicine. Aygul Zhatim-Karinova's colleagues also took part in the funeral. Like the late head of the unit, they were accused of falsely testifying about the stroke of the former health minister as well. Criminal cases were instigated against the hospital staff and doctors could now face up to 3 years of imprisonment. The actions of the financial police have nothing to do with this. Perhaps you expect some sensational statements from me, but I can tell you objectively as a doctor, she suffered from a natural disease. Although the clinics had personally assured the funeral crowd that the death is not linked to the pressure from the financial police, the sudden passing of the unit head raises numerous questions and rumors, especially since Abay Baygenjin was heard speaking very differently just the day before. Our head of the resuscitation unit died yesterday. She was constantly summoned for the interrogations. We don't know what happened with her there. The official cause of death will be revealed only in 10 days. According to Baygenjin, this time is needed to make the final medical conclusion.
Veronika Yefimova, the witness on the case of top managers of the BTA Bank, will not be extradited to Kazakhstan. The decision was made on Wednesday by the Supreme Court of Russia, effectively meeting the defense motion of the bank's former head of the corporate clients department.
The trial over the embezzlement of BT's assets is continuing in Kazakhstan. Yefimova is still asserting that the case over the issuance of multi-billion credits in 2009 was fabricated with the name of the bank's corporate takeover. Last year, the Russian prosecution office detained Yefimova without a court sanction, as is stipulated by the legislation of the country. This was followed with a number of trials, while Kazakh law enforcement continuously insisted on the extradition of Yefimova. However, first the European Court on Human Rights ordered the Russian authorities to suspend the extradition, and now the Russian Supreme Court made the decision in favor of Veronika Yefimova. According to the defense, this is definitely a progress, although not at the end, as the verdict was left unchanged and Yefimova remains under house arrest. The Supreme Court has examined our appeals and dropped the decision of the Moscow City Court on the legitimacy and validity of her extradition. Now the case will be sent for a new examination to the Moscow City Court with different composition. Then the court will decide once again whether the prosecutor's decision over the extradition of Kazakhstan is valid and legitimate.
Representatives of the Competition Protection Agency stated on Wednesday that the recent increase of bread prices in the country's regions is completely unfounded. Unsurprisingly, officials blame producers and millers, with several administrative cases already instigated against companies in the Pavlodar and Zhambyl regions.
Criminal cases have been instigated against a number of mills in different regions of the country. 3 will have to pay substantial fines. The increase of bread prices by 4 cents on average occurred more than a month ago. Among the reasons cited were the emergence of the customs union and droughts in the neighboring states. Anti-monopoly officials do not see these reasons as objective. Bread prices grew unreasonably and speculatively due to the price collusion and the use of dominant position. Currently, the agency is investigating every case of the price increase for bread and flour. A quarter of the price for a loaf of bread covers production expenses like equipment costs and wages. Bakers' profit is actually not more than 5%. Due to the pressure from the authorities, 17 bakeries had to shut down in the south of the country. Dozens more are on the brink of bankruptcy. Businessmen complain that they cannot operate at a loss. The subsidized flour promised by the state is also hard to come by. While allocating subsidized flour, the local administration can give one businessman 200 sacks per day and another 200 sacks total. It's not fair. Pavlodar businessmen have yet to see the subsidized flour, although according to the prior arrangements with the state, it was to be used to produce bread at fixed, socially accessible costs. Now bread producers say that they have no other choice but to raise flour and bread prices. The growth of prices for raw materials affected flour prices. That is, producers began selling raw materials at the prices profitable only to them. In the meantime, the growth of prices also affected cereals, vegetable oil and sugar. Representatives of the Competition Protection Agency, these cases are investigated as well.
Employees of the titanium and magnesium plant in Ust-Kamenogorsk threatened the authorities with an act of self-immolation, since the city officials want to evict them from a local hostel. The tenants say that the plant management wants to turn the building into a commercial hotel, which will make 100 families homeless.
Most of tenants are the current and former workers of the metallurgic giant. People say that the representatives of the plant's administration threatened to fire everyone who will not move within the deadline of November 1st. Tenants say that they have appealed to the ruling party, city administration and even sent emails to the president's administration, although with no result so far. The local authorities and the leadership of the plant refrain from commenting the situation. People say that they have no place to go, have no other housing, and now they are ready for extreme measures. I even tried to get an appointment with the mayor, but they always hang up. This time I said that unless they do something, I'll call the TV and set myself on fire. Only then they made an appointment. I'm a citizen of Kazakhstan. If we will be evicted from here, I will definitely conduct an act of self-immolation. I'm not leaving this place, as I know where to go.
A citizen of South Korea, Jun Chong-ki, who currently resides in Almaty, sees no other way but to protest and hunger strike against the officials' decision to deport her from Kazakhstan. Apparently, the woman failed to show up on time in the employment center, although she claims this was a simple misunderstanding. Now, the Korean businesswoman has joined the hunger strike in residents of the micro-district Bakay, who demand the legitimization of their land plots.
Water dulls the hunger, while hunger as a form of protest intensifies the reaction of the authorities. These observations are shared with the reporters by a South Korean citizen, Jun Hon-hee, who hunger strikes with other residents of the micro-district Bakay for already more than 2 weeks. On Tuesday, the Almaty prosecution office made a decision to deport her within 10 days for not appearing in the employment center. My son doesn't want to go to other countries and wants to live here. He says that we'll lose more time if we go to some other countries. That is why we are here, and that is why I built a house here. Jun Hon-hee and her son live in Kazakhstan for 13 years. She runs a small business, bought a house and placed her son in a local school. In 2005, she ended up in a car accident, and while staying in a hospital, her relatives re-registered the house, making the court evict her later. All subsequent attempts to reclaim the property failed. That is when the woman joined the hunger strike of Bakay residents who demand the legitimization of their land plots. Her input in a poster in Korean with the accusation of Kazakh courts of corruption. She's still working, running a store in Almaty and paying taxes every month. What is the reason for her deportation? Jun's comrades in protest are confident that the woman is deported strictly for her active civil position and courage to take part in a hunger strike. The prosecution office refrains from commenting the issue, saying the official inquiry on the matter was lost. I can't tell you exactly where the document is. My computer is being fixed right now. Please call tomorrow. June does not intend to leave Kazakhstan, although only 6 days are left before the deadline.
Public organization Leave Housing to People demands to recognize as legitimate loan agreements issued by a number of Kazakh banks. Supposedly, these financial institutes illegally collect hidden interest at the expense of mortgage holders.
The Almaty District Court evaluated the credibility of the Kazakh lending system. Cessna Bank sued the activist of the movement Leave Housing to People, Jamila Alimtaeva, over the delay of loan payments. In return, Alimtaeva countersued the bank, asking to recognize their agreement as ineligible. In 2007, Cessna granted Alimtaeva a credit of $130,000, but is not considering the difference in exchange rates back then and now, while collecting interest rates. They say that the client has voluntarily signed the agreement, but even if it's true, it doesn't mean that the agreement has to be compiled with the violation of the legislation. In her suit, Alimtaeva demands to recalculate the amount of the debt with the consideration of the past exchange rates. The credit was issued when $1 cost 127 tenge, while now it is 147.5. At the same time, the activist demands to revise the entire repayment system. A credit is always issued with the property as deposit, but in this case there are also a monetary deposit because the amount was substantial. The loan agreement clause 4 lists all operations for which Cessna Bank charges fees. All of the rates can be found there, and Alimtaeva knew about them. Bank's representative informed the court that Alimtaeva never attempted to resolve the conflict until now, when her deposit of $27,000 has run out due to the bank using it as an interest rate pool. At the same time, Alimtaeva says the bank never initiated restructuring talks either. It is now up to the court to find a way out of the situation.
Well, the country is engulfed with protest scandals, hunger strikes and increase of prices. Kazakh sociologists revealed their surprisingly optimistic forecasts. 76% of respondents polled by the Center of Social and Political Studies appeared to be satisfied with their life, wages and prices, and even still looking with optimism at the future.
The population of Kazakhstan is satisfied with the current financial and political situation in the country, as well as the choice of the incumbent president. These results were presented by the Center of Sociological and Political Studies Strategy. The study was conducted in all regional centers, including Almaty and Astana. According to researcher Olga Simakova, 1,500 people were surveyed in total. 76% of them are satisfied with the current situation in Kazakhstan. At the same time, 73% are ready to vote for the ruling party, with only 1% or 15 people likely to give their votes to the party Akjol. We can say that none of the parties besides Nuratan have an electoral rating. This is a sad result, which we have never seen before. Not all observers trusted the presented numbers, recalling the situation in the neighboring Kyrgyzstan when the statistics showed that the population expressed its absolute trust to President Akayev. I don't remember the exact numbers, but the situation seemed very decent. Then, 3 weeks later, Akayev was ousted. Activist of the unregistered party Alga Mikhail Sizov doubts the results of the survey as well. He believes these are simply political games of the state. Sociological studies of this type are presented on the eve of the elections, and there will be more of the similar campaign surveys and presentations with even better results. Political activist Sizov sees no point in actions like these. He says that Nuratan will win the elections even without the dubious surveys, not because the opposition is unpopular among the population, but because the authorities are not giving it access to the masses.